The 1980s were a transformative decade for Japan. During this time, Japan experienced a remarkable economic boom, becoming the world's second largest economy. The nation was synonymous with cutting-edge technology, producing iconic consumer electronics like Sony's Walkman and Nintendo's Famicom home console and Game Boy handheld console. This era also saw the rise of Japanese pop culture, with anime and manga gaining international recognition, and Japan's prosperity was reflected in the extravagant lifestyles of its citizens in the bustling streets of Tokyo's Shibuya and Harajuku districts. As Japan basked in the glow of its economic success during the 1980s, there was a parallel surge in the popularity of game shows and variety shows, and one of these shows would go on to become an extraordinary international success, Takeshi's Castle. This wacky and surreal game show saw contestants take on the might of Count Takeshi, partaking in a series of challenges that would see the field whittled down to the final few who would have the chance to defeat Takeshi and seize his castle. Despite only being on Japanese television for 4 years, from 1986 to 1990, the show would go on to become a cult television hit, being exported to many countries around the world and inspiring countless game shows internationally. If you're of a certain age, Takeshi's Castle holds a special place in your heart. And for those unfamiliar with the show, you are certainly in for a treat. In this video, we'll embark on a nostalgic journey back to a time when life was a little bit simpler. So settle in, grab your favorite snack, and let's relive the hilarity and excitement of Takeshi's Castle. Game shows have a long history on Japanese television dating back to the 1950s. However, it wasn't until the 1980s that the quintessential Japanese game show as we know it today emerged. The year was 1985, and TBS, or the Tokyo Broadcasting System, was keen on developing a fresh and captivating variety TV show. Producer Kunihiko Katsura had previously worked on a program called Waratepon, which featured popular comedian and actor Beat Takeshi and the 3 members of the Tanokin Trio, a popular Japanese male idol group. However, this show didn't perform well and only lasted for 12 episodes. During a production meeting attended by Takeshi, other comedians and writers, various ideas were brainstormed for a new variety show concept. Beat Takeshi led a group known as the Takeshi Gundan, primarily comprised of comedy apprentices and Takeshi's students. They affectionately referred to him as Dono, a term of respect, which sparked the idea of setting the show in a castle. However, it was Takeshi himself who came up with the idea of Takeshi's Castle. Inspired by the release of the hugely successful Super Mario Bros. In 1985, Takeshi found himself wondering if Takeshi's Castle could emulate the experience of playing a real-life version of the game, and this influence can be seen in some of the show's games and set design. With this creative spark, the concept of Takeshi's Castle was born, and TBS got started on making it a reality. It is said that the total cost of the set for Takeshi's Castle was roughly 100 million yen, which was an exceptionally high budget for the time, leading to the show's promotional materials proudly dubbing it the largest construction project of the 20th century. Before the show's official debut, a pilot was filmed, and although it never aired internationally, it is believed to have aired on Japanese television. The only video footage that currently exists of the pilot is a few seconds in the trailer promoting the first episode. But several photos documenting the pilot's production are still in existence. On May 2nd, 1986, the inaugural episode of Takeshi's Castle aired on TBS during their Friday evening slot. And the rest, as they say, is history. At the start of each episode, we see Takeshi's guards fleeing through a barrage of explosions from General Tani and his army as they prepare to storm Takeshi's castle. General Tani, known as General Lee in the British broadcast, was portrayed by Hayato Tani. Throughout the show, we see the fearless keeper of the castle, Count Takeshi, as he monitors the invasion of his lands. In later episodes, Takeshi also took part in various comedic situations. Before the first game, we get a chance to hear from some of the contestants as the general gives them a pep talk in the woods at the edge of the castle grounds. And then, with his team fired up and ready to go, the general begins the storm on the castle with his iconic catchphrase. Before the first challenge, we're usually introduced to Junji Inagawa, the field reporter, and his job was to provide updates on the ground as the battle proceeded. And then the challenges begin. In each episode, contestants had to battle through around 8 challenges to reach the final assault on Takeshi's castle. Contestants who failed a challenge would be eliminated, although some contestants were allowed to continue even if they had failed a challenge, if they'd put in a valiant effort or had a particularly hilarious fail. Throughout the original Takeshi's Castle, there were a total of 110 different games played. Just over half of these challenges were played only once or twice, and all of the challenges can be divided into the following categories: starting games, main games, 2-player games, and ending games. When it comes to starting games, the most common games were Slipped Discs, The Great Wall, Bite the Bun, Knock Knock 2, and Slippery Wall. Slipped Discs saw contestants attempt to cross a bunker while protecting their paper discs from being broken by the guards' water pistols. The Great Wall was a simple climb over a wall to advance to the next round. Bite the Bun was a hilarious dash to grab a bun hanging on a string, difficult because they couldn't use their hands. Slippery Wall was very similar to the Great Wall, but significantly more difficult as the wall was on an incline and, well, slippery. And Knock Knock 2 was a starter version of one of the main games, Knock Knock, but more about that later. Let's now take a look at the main challenges, which made up the bulk of the show. Everyone had their own favourite games that they looked forward to each week, but for me, top of the list is Skipping Stones. Appearing in 85 of the show's 133 episodes, this was the most common event after the final showdown and the final fall. This shin-smashing event saw contestants attempt to get from one side of a pond to the other by using the stepping stones spaced across the water. Most of the stones were fixed in place, but some moved when stepped on, leading to an absolutely hilarious challenge. It was scary seeing the speed at which some contestants attempted to cross the stones, leading to some incredible yet painful looking falls. The Honeycomb Maze was the next most common main game, appearing in 74 episodes. The aim of the game was to get from one side of the maze to the other, avoiding the guards contained within and the doors leading to the drink. This one was probably a lot harder than it looked. Bridge Ball was certainly a fan favourite, a challenge in which contestants simply had to cross from one side of the bridge to the other, holding the golden ball. What's so difficult about walking across a bridge? How about the guards firing balls at the contestants at incredible speed? There must have been some injuries from this one. High Rollers was a game synonymous with incredible fails due to its difficulty. In attempting to get from one side to the other, contestants would often end up in the drink as they lost their balance. In early episodes, there were only 3 rollers that needed to be crossed, but this was later increased to 5 and then 7. Wipeout was an interesting game in which contestants had to ride a surfboard around in a circle to the finishing platform, jumping over some obstacles along the way. While this didn't look too difficult at first glance, there were some glorious fails from the contestants. Knock Knock was another one of my personal favourites. In this challenge, competitors had to make it from one side of a field to the other, past a series of walls with a choice of doors. Some of the doors are made of paper, but others are completely solid, and contestants had to run full speed into the door of their choice to make it through each section. How there weren't some broken necks from this one, I will never know. Rice Bowl Downhill was always one of my highlights, appearing in 24 episodes, contestants had to slide down a large water slide while sitting in an oversized rice bowl, with the goal of staying in the bowl until they hit the water at the bottom. This looked like a lot of fun. There were also a few less physical games, and even some that weren't physical at all. In Quake, for example, the goal was to stay balanced on a cushion while an earthquake is simulated, though I have no idea why they had to be dressed as old people for this. Karaoke was a great example of a non-physical game. Contestants would go into a makeshift karaoke bar and sing a song. If they sufficiently entertained the customers and the bar's boss, they would make it through to the next round. If not, they would be ejected from the bar by the bouncers. What I didn't realize when I first watched the show was that the contestants wouldn't know what song they were going to sing until they were in there. And if they didn't know the words, they could make up their own, or dance, or do anything they could to impress their audience. Back to some of the more physical games, Sumo Rings was exactly that, a sumo fight against one of 5 possible opponents. Some opponents were easy to win against, while others, not so much. The Dragon Lake and Poles Apart were 2 quite similar games. Contestants had to get from the starting platform to the finishing platform, using a rope in Dragon Lake and a pole in Poles Apart. While some made it look easy, others had some marvelous fails. One of the hardest games, in my opinion, was Mushroom Trip. Contestants had to hold on to a giant mushroom as it swung around on its way across the river towards the finishing platform. This required excellent upper body and core strength to survive, and it was clear that not all of us are built for something like that. Velcro Fly was also a fun game, in which contestants wore a Velcro suit and had to swing across the river and stick themselves against the wall. Technique is everything in this game, particularly not jumping head first off the starting platform. There were so many other games that were played on the show, and it would take a long time to go through every single one in detail in this video. So go and check out some old episodes of Takeshi's Castle after this. What were your favorite games? Let me know in the comments below. Winning on Takeshi's Castle was very difficult. There were 2 versions of the final showdown, the water gun version and the laser gun version. The majority of episodes used the water gun version, with the laser version being used from episode 88 onwards. The showdown featured the remaining contestants as they prepared to storm Takeshi's castle. Standing in their way was Takeshi himself alongside his most trusted guards. The aim of the showdown was to take out Takeshi, and in the water gun version, the goal was to perforate the paper ring on Takeshi's cart before the contestant's own ring was broken. And in the laser gun version, players were equipped with laser guns and had to hit a sensor located on Takeshi's cart before either Takeshi himself or one of the guards hit the sensor on the contestant's cart. The water gun version in particular was notoriously difficult to win. During one episode, it seemed as if a contestant had won, but it later turned out that he had actually broken Takeshi's paper ring with the gun itself rather than with water. It wasn't until episode 31 when a team of contestants actually managed to break Takeshi's paper ring and be declared winners of Takeshi's Castle. As it was unclear who had fired the winning shot, as there were so many contestants all firing at Takeshi's ring at the same time, all 10 contestants who had reached the final showdown were declared winners. There was one other occasion during the water gun variation where Takeshi was defeated, and all 14 contestants on that episode were declared winners. When the switch was made to the laser gun version in the final showdown, there were 6 different episodes where Takeshi's sensor was hit, and using this method, it was easier to determine who had fired the winning shot at Takeshi. And in one episode, it was even General Tani who was the one to have fired the winning shot at Takeshi, and he decided to split the prize money among all of the remaining contestants. There was also another way to win on the show, the Fighting Spirit Prize. This was an award that was given to contestants that were deemed to be entertaining, either because of the valiant effort they put into competing, or due to having a particularly spectacular fail. At least one Fighting Spirit Prize was awarded on each episode, and the 100th episode of the show invited back many of these prize winners to compete once again. What about you? Do you think you would have what it takes to win on Takeshi's Castle? Takeshi's Castle ended in Japan in 1990, but this would certainly not be the end. The show would go on to be edited and broadcast in many countries around the world. In the United States, footage of the show was repurposed and edited to create Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. This created an entirely new premise to the show, with a storyline, characters, and two teams competing against each other. In MXC, the challenges were given new names, and there were some crackers, including Knock Knock being changed to Wall Bangers, Dragon Lake was called Dope on a Rope, and Wipeout donned the name The Rotating Surfboard of Death. Being from the UK, I am of course most familiar with the Challenge TV version of the show. Commentated by Craig Charles, the UK format didn't follow the exact same format as the original. The show had to be condensed from almost 1 hour to 30 minutes, and to achieve this, a lot of the comedy sketches were edited out, and the show instead focused on the games themselves, entertaining viewers with a combination of successful contestants and spectacular failures. Premiering in November 2002, the show regularly dominated the top programs on the channel, becoming must-see television each week. Craig Charles's commentary was perfect. He would regularly describe contestants as wazzocks, he coined the term Keshi heads to describe fans of the show, and always ended each episode with, as my old dad used to say.
As my old dad used to say, you clean off the baked beans and I won't tell the doctor. As my old dad used to say, if I give you extra pocket money, promise not to tell your mum. You'll need more than a Brillo pad to get that one out. If it doesn't fit, spit on it and try again. If you dig it in the spring, it'll be out of fashion by winter.
However, Takeshi's Castle was actually first introduced to British audiences in the late 1980s on the show Tarrant on TV. Chris Tarrant featured clips from the show during a segment in which he discussed interesting or unusual television from around the world. A number of reboots have occurred since the UK version of Takeshi's Castle ended. In 2013, Takeshi's Castle Rebooted was broadcast, featuring unseen games and challenges. However, this disappointed fans, with many complaining about the fact that Craig Charles was not brought in to do the voiceover. And in the late 2010s, a new series was broadcast on Comedy Central with Jonathan Ross as commentator, using footage from the Thailand version of Takeshi's Castle. It wouldn't be until 2022 that Amazon Prime Video and the Tokyo Broadcasting System would announce a full revival of Takeshi's Castle. After building a new set at the Midoriyama Studios, the same place where the original series was filmed, filming for the new series occurred in July and August of 2022, before premiering in April 2023. The show is incredible. The presentation of the show is much more bright and colourful than the original. Hayato Tani has returned as General Tani, and many of the fan favourite games from the original series are back, including Bridge Ball, Honeycomb Maze, Knock Knock, Slippery Way, Wipeout, Mushroom Trip, and my personal favourite, Skipping Stones. If you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend you do. It will be a nostalgic blast from the past for sure, and I'm certain you'll have a lot of fun watching it. It's clear that this iconic show has left an indelible mark on television history. Born in the midst of Japan's economic boom in the 1980s, Takeshi's Castle became a cultural phenomenon that transcended borders and generations. With its unique blend of physical challenges, humor, and sheer unpredictability, Takeshi's Castle captured the hearts of viewers worldwide. We marveled at contestants braving perilous obstacles, laughed at their spectacular failures, and cheered for their moments of glory. It was more than just a game show. It was an experience that brought people together for a chance to tune out of our chaotic lives and just have some fun. Takeshi's Castle's triumphant return in 2023 has filled fans with excitement. I couldn't be happier to see it return to our screens and hope we're in for many years of fun and entertainment. My thanks to you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this nostalgic look back at Takeshi's Castle, and I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel so far, watched the videos, and given me some great feedback. If you haven't subscribed yet, it would mean the world if you could. Thanks everyone, and see you in the next video.